Good morning. Welcome to another episode of The Conversation here on TOSTV Network, your digital first Pan-African news network. And you already know I'm bringing you the show from Nigeria's capital city of Abuja. And my name is Ade Suwalsi. Today on the show, we're going to, be addressing the issue of domestic violence, but with men. I think it's an offshoot of the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp issue, where she told him that a man cannot be a victim of domestic violence, as nobody would actually believe that a man, strong in all of that, is a victim of domestic violence. And that has sparked a hashtag men too on social media. So that's what we're going to be looking at on the conversation today. So join me in having that conversation here in the studio is Adewale Fajana, a legal practitioner and a men's advocate. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Adesua.
It's my pleasure to have you.
Viewers.
Yeah, now let's get straight into it. I don't want to come off too insinuative, but how is it possible? How can you, a man, full-fledged, strong, and all of that, be a victim of domestic violence? How's that possible?
And I think that's the starting point of the conversation.
Okay.
That many have this sociological belief, cultural belief that men cannot be victims of domestic violence. But the statistics and the experiences of men out there proves in the contrary. Men also are victims or tend to be victims of domestic violence because it's happening, it's on the increase. There was a 2019 study that was done in the University of Ibadan, which showed that previously, previous to that time, there was a 26% increase in incidents and reports of domestic violence against men. So typically, the perception is that men are strong by the nature of their morphology or physique. In fact, most men are regarded as the perpetrators of domestic violence.
Yes.
But the truth is that right now, many more men are victims and experiencing domestic violence.
But are we talking about domestic violence in the physical, like physical violence?
Physical abuse. So the argument has been, it used to be neglect, verbal abuse, nagging, you deny him food, you deny him sex. Those were the psychological indices that many women use to show men maybe some disapproval or try to use to react to maybe things they do not like. But in terms of physical abuse, slaps, hit, assault, even many men have knives drawn at them. It's getting that terrible, and it's on the increase. So the idea that it's only psychological abuse that men suffer, it's actually no longer the case. Now, many women, I've had a case where I had a client who told me, lawyer, I'm going to kill him if he doesn't leave me.
Are you serious?
And she meant it. Many women have access to guns now. Many have access to even kitchen utensils like knives, like daggers, pliers, screwdrivers, and some their shoes. So it's on the increase, and the truth is that many suffer it, but they can't talk about it.
Yes.
Why? Because nobody will believe that you're a victim.
That's the point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so bad that even within the government cycles, some, let's say, police officers or some security personnel, they find it difficult to deal with the issue of men coming to report that they are victims of domestic violence.
Because
be like,
they
you're a
tend to
man.
like, exactly.
You're a man. What are you talking about? You're a man. You're supposed to be a man. Go and take care of your home. All right. Some would even recommend to retaliate.
Oh.
Some would recommend that, come on, you're a man. You're an African man. Beat her. Just to measure up on the side of force. So it's a big deal, and it's good that we're having this conversation. Men too suffer domestic abuse, physical assault, and domestic violence in every other way that is imaginable.
Okay, let me ask you this. It looks like you actually have experience with this thing. So what would make you, a man, be so subject, like put yourself in that position to actually get to that point where a woman who's supposed to be the weaker, human would physically assault a man?
I think there are a couple of issues. Some some can be religious persuasion. Some believe that I cannot hit my wife.
Okay.
Or some actually, based on knowledge, know that violence is not the best way to settle differences or resolve conflicts. Conflict is normal in marriage, in family, at the home front. Conflict is normal, even in offices. But when you see a resort to violence, it means that reasoning has broken down. It means that we cannot reason to resolve the differences. And that's why many men need to know that there are alternatives.
Okay.
Some you can walk away, some you can choose to keep quiet, but it depends also on the personality of the man in question. Some men are extremely laid back, some are extremely introverted, they don't talk, some even bottle their emotions. A lot of men actually bottle their emotions. It's often said that men don't cry. And men who don't cry, they get to crack. So when you bottle your emotions, or when you choose not to manage the conflict in an appropriate manner, in such a way that there is no resort to violence or resort to force or assault, then you are able to manage the situation. But many women feel like if you hit me, I'll hit you back. And sometimes there is an element of toxic femininity that tends to say you can square up with the guy, you can hit him blow for blow, an eye for an eye, and everybody goes blind at the end of the day. So these are some of the things that men face. Some men also know that they are physically not as strong as their wives.
Okay.
Or the construct around, if I square up with her in the area of, if I get physical with her, nobody will want to believe that she hit me first.
Yes, exactly.
So that social construct around the fact that men are always stronger, men are more physical or tend to be more physical, there's a way it makes people don't believe when you report that she hit me first.
Okay,
or,
but sorry to interject, but do you think maybe PTSD or trauma from maybe the man saying that happening in his home, and then he doesn't want to replicate that in his own family, is also a reason why men subject
so background, all right?
Yeah.
Some men grew up in relationships where they saw their fathers assault their moms or assault their stepmothers, and psychologically, I don't want to be this kind of man. And based on that, he goes about approaching his female relationships, even maybe they're dating or married, and he doesn't want to replay that mental picture. And he suffers some kind of trauma when he sees the tendency to be that kind of person. He doesn't want to be, there's a withdrawal, or, and all those reactions. So it's possible that it's an offshoot of a traumatic experience growing up, and he decides, I don't want to be that kind of person.
And women tend to take advantage
of that and, mete out violence to this guy, particularly when he knows that I know he won't want to hit me.
Exactly.
Or I know he won't want to, for instance, if he's a religious person, where it will be untold out there that he hit his wife. She tends to maybe drag his clothes, pull his shirt, break his, items, just because she knows that he's not going to retaliate on force. So
before we wrap up, what would be your first reaction when a man comes up and say, look, I am a victim of domestic violence? What would be your first reaction? And then maybe what would you propose? As an African, or as a Nigerian, because you did say as an African, nobody would largely believe that an African man is a victim of domestic violence.
So for me, I would say that on the side of the victim, please keep talking. Don't keep quiet. Don't let the society silence you. Let your voice be heard. On the side of the government, investigative agencies, the police, and even the society, please, when a man comes out to say, I'm being victimized, please pay attention before he does something crazy or before he ends up in a body bag. Very important. And there are laws that are available to address instances of inhuman treatment, domestic violence, irrespective of whether you're a man or a woman. And I want to call on the society to ensure that there are avenues and platforms for men to speak out. All right, there are organizations that have set up to help women who are victims of domestic violence, sexual violence, and all this. We need to have something like that for men.
Yeah.
Men need to find a safe space where they can make their voice heard, they can share their experiences, and even learn to do better. Absolutely. So we need to have something in place for men so that they also can not just to signal the fact that their voices are being heard, but where they can find help, where they can receive counseling, where they can find therapy, where they can find the social support that can help them through that phase and manage the underlying factors that might have triggered that reaction from the women in their lives.
Would you also recommend separation? Because I know a lot of times when they talk about women in abusive environment, they always tell them, even if you don't want to divorce, you can separate.
Yeah, I would. It depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
All right. I believe that anything that needs to guarantee your safety is worth it. If separation guarantees your immediate safety, why not?
Okay.
You can walk out, you can leave the environment for a while just to have emotions come down, and then you can have some intervention it could be from police, it could be from your religious leaders, or from just anybody around, just to ensure that you are safe right in the midst of that chaos. All right. So if separation on a temporary basis can take care of that, why not?
Okay.
You need to be safe before you end up in a body bag.
Before you end up in a body bag. Thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
sharing your thoughts with me
Thanks
on the
so much.
conversation.
Thank
this
you.
morning.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And you know what they say, before a man comes out to say something, must have had it up to here.
Absolutely.
So just listen. When he says it, please listen. Thank you so much for joining me on the conversation this morning. The conversation always comes to you Mondays to Fridays, same time, same channel. But before then, follow us across all social media platforms. It's TOSTV Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The channel to subscribe to on YouTube is TOSTV Network. And of course, stream our website, www.tostvnetwork.com, for news, stories, and happenings from across the world. Thank you again. My name is Ade, so I'll see you. Do join me again on Monday, but have a very, very restful weekend.